Hey, Jack, we had on our forward agenda for a while the Newland Sierra project.
Oh, yeah.
Is that going to come before? I know we don't have any say in the project per se. It's being processed through the county, but had talked about doing at least a presentation from them, an update, something to the council so we can at least have an opportunity in a public setting to hear what's going on with that project. I know the EIR is moving along, getting close to being.
The EIR was supposed to be issued this week. I haven't seen it yet.
So it's a good juncture, I think, to have that and get a presentation on it here.
I don't think that applicant's interested in doing a presentation. They've told us they're not particularly interested in coming and doing a presentation.
All right, then let's get a staff briefing on it then.
If that's the council's wish, we're happy
Well,
to
staff
do it.
briefing in public, or do you want it in?
No, let's do it in a public setting. I think it affects our residents. We should, at least have an opportunity for them to say how they feel about it.
So we don't have land use jurisdiction over that project?
Understand, but we do have an opportunity to comment on the EIR, and I think our residents would expect us to comment on the EIR.
Do we comment on the EIR for the project that's over off of San Marcos Boulevard on the way to Palomar Airport Road? I mean, there's a lot of adjacent projects. The one that was right next to the Las Brisas project, I'm just saying, I mean, like that's a slippery slope starting commenting on every single...
But I think this is a pretty significant project right on our border that the city is going to have to serve. So I think at minimum we could get a staff presentation about what it entails, what the city, how the city commented on the EIR, details about what is in the EIR, what the project means. And I'm a little disturbed that the applicant's not willing to even come talk to us here about that. That to me doesn't seem right. So
I have a question. Obviously, the EIR is a public document, and then we'll weigh in on that public document where it affects us, which then becomes public comment. So I think if we publicly talk about the EIR, how it impacts us and what our comment is, because that is a public document, but I don't know how much staff could give us a presentation on a project that's not ours. Like typically the applicant, and if it was in the city, would give that presentation.
I think what staff would do if it was going to make a presentation in this forum would be to, after the environmental document is issued and we've reviewed it, we could do a presentation that would say, here's what our review of that environmental document revealed in terms of the various aspects, whether it be traffic or parks or greenhouse gases or all the various elements that go into an environmental document, and what our view of whether they're from staff's perspective adequately mitigating the impacts that they're causing. That would be the nature of a report we would do.
Typically, and that would be based on we agree with the formula that was used, or we disagree with the formula that was used. Is that?
It would be their project would have direct impacts on certain facilities, transportation facilities. Obviously, traffic's a big issue. Are they adequately mitigating those impacts at the intersections where they're causing those impacts? That's what our review would be looking at. For instance, that would be on the traffic side.
Well, I'd be interested in hearing that, and I think our residents would be interested in hearing that.
I guess before we commit to that, why don't you? We haven't even seen it yet.
I don't believe it's been issued yet. I was told it would be issued Thursday of this week, but we've been told it was going to be issued soon a number of times.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be the first time we've ever done something like that as far as the bringing somebody else's project to our public venue. I guess I'd like to see what it is and hear from you first what impacts there are and if they're being mitigated or not. And then maybe a recommendation from you is to whether we need a public hearing or not, or if our mitigation measures are being met or not, because we don't even know that yet, do we?
No, it has not been put out for public review yet.
I guess I'm not understanding the hesitancy to at least have a staff presentation if the applicant won't come and present their project to us. That's going to have impact on us. So I guess I'm not understanding. And apparently it's a day for setting precedents on things, so I think this might be a good one for us to hear a presentation on a project that affects our residents. We had a project that happened in Vista that affected a lot of our residents, and I think there was some disappointment in the community that the city didn't do more to impact the outcome of that project. So I think it is appropriate for a significant project like this that's on our border for the city in a public setting to hear that project and hear what the impacts are, and for our residents to know what steps we're taking to mitigate those impacts, or what steps the applicant's taking.
Well,
and if the council doesn't want to do it, fine, but I think we should.
I'm trying to, since we've never done it before, I'm trying to talk this out. So it'd be equivalent to when we did San Alejo and went through the approvals with that, Carlsbad doing a presentation and then weighing in publicly.
It's not, it's them presenting their project. It's not us weighing into the county. We have an opportunity to comment on the EAR. That's a part of the process. I think it's fully appropriate.
But we do that on every project, like Elfin Forest, when that project was approved. I for one, it's not that I'm reticent of having a public meeting on this particular project. It's just we've never done this before, and
I disagree. We've heard plenty of projects here, and we get staff presentations on things that council are interested in all the time. So I don't think there's anything unusual about this. I don't think there's anything unusual about it. I think it's fully appropriate for a project that's going to have this significant of an impact for us at least to get a staff presentation about what those impacts are and how they're being mitigated. It's not that crazy of a request, and frankly, I don't understand why the rest of the council is so hesitant to accept it.
Well, I don't know that they're not processing through us, so do we even have the project? I mean, the EIR is not necessarily the entire project presented, isn't it? Most of the impacts of the project, or I don't know that what detail would be presented, or how our staff would report or would present someone else's project.
Obviously, the staff reviews the EIR, and they're going to make comments on the EIR.
Sure,
so
and that's going to be made public.
Right. What I'm saying is I'd like to hear what staff's comments are, because frankly, in some instances, I've thought the comments to EIRs to projects that have affected us have been insufficient. So on this particular one, since it is such a large project, I would like to hear what staff's assessment of those impacts are and how they're being mitigated.
I guess I'd like to hear that from staff first, and then get a recommendation from them as far as doing it in a public
I
setting.
disagree, because the point is that I think we need to weigh in on that.
Well, I think if we are going to publicly discuss our comments on the EIR, I think we need to have experts available, because I can...
We have one right here, we have one over there, and hopefully the applicant will come and talk about their project.
Because I don't completely understand the formulas that are used and I'm sure Helen could help navigate that on.
As interested as we are in the subject from a legal perspective, a peer review by actual traffic consultants is probably something you might want to have.
Well, I'll tell you what, there doesn't seem to be consensus here on this item. I think let staff have a chance to look at it and tell us what they found before we make any sort of a public bringing it for someone else's project to our, to be. We can't really vote up or down on the project. We have no jurisdiction. I think whatever staff puts out is going to be public anyway, so it's not like
Now, if the EIR comes out and what they are saying the impacts are, we really have a problem with, then I think we need to discuss what our response is going to be. Obviously, it depends what the EIR says.
We haven't got it yet.
I guess that's my point, that when it comes out, I'd like to get a briefing on what it says, and that's what I'm getting at. So if I'm not expressing that properly, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm
okay.
getting
No,
at.
we get it. I don't know that everybody else is buying in or wants that at this time.
I mean, I would like like we do our normal briefings on the EIR, because I think it is a large project and I think it does have some impacts. So I'd be curious to see that document other than, I mean, obviously we can see it when it's released to the public, but I would like to have some explanations on whether we agree with their numbers or not.
And then maybe once that comes out, decide how to proceed forward.
That would be my recommendation.
And
look at it first. Let us know.
See what staff has to say about it.
And if there is consensus of a disagreement, then I say we take that public.
Okay.